What's up, guys? We are back with another Boss Fight Studio review, taking a look at the second wave of Epic Hacks 6-inch skeletons. If you recall, I took a look at the first wave not too long ago, and it's basically exactly what you think it is. 6-inch skeletons that are also, in many ways, pretty weird and wacky in terms of what they are, the colors, the outfits, the accessories, a lot of goofy stuff. And we've got 4 new figures to talk about in this wave. The first of which is going to be, I don't know, maybe the craziest one. We've got our Luchador skeleton. Anything is a skeleton, right? So you can have anything be a skeleton. And this guy's name is Bone Salt, which, I mean, that's just awesome. We've got some colored skeletons too, though. We've got the green Phalanx. We've got the red Spartan. And this is the one, this is the big one. We've got the orange Outlaw. So, orange skeleton. I'm 100% on board for this. Now, these guys come in blister card style packaging, which is pretty typical for a lot of boss fight stuff. So you got them there in the bubble. Each figure, each package has its own themed artwork for the front. So it gives you a big shot of that particular skeleton in some type of setting that it's associated with. And then the back of the box gives you a write-up for each figure, as well as a large product shot and a cross-sell of whatever else is in this wave. So, I mean, I really like the packaging for these. I'm going to have to, you know, rip them out, obviously, but they do look nice on card. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Boss Fight Studio Epic Hacks Wave 2 skeletons. We've got 4 more skeletons to talk about this time around. And in many ways, these are the wackier figures compared to that first wave because, I mean, you've got crazy colors, we've got a luchador. It's a wacky wave, and this is the kind of stuff that, well, I kind of enjoy this kind of stuff. So we've got Bone Salt, our luchador skeleton. We've got the Outlaw, the orange skeleton. We've got the Spartan, the red skeleton, and then we've got the Phalanx, the green. Now, as far as articulation goes, these guys are all the same. Of course, they're skeletons. They're all the same. So we'll just pick one, and we'll run through what they can do, how they can move, and then we'll get into what makes these guys unique. So we'll use our Phalanx here as the guinea pig, and these, again, they're all the same body. There's a full skeleton underneath the clothing. You know, you can see some of it more on certain figures, but there's a full skeleton under here. The only real limiting factor on any of these is the torso, and it's mostly because they're wearing clothes, but then there is just some limits to how these things seem to be put together. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. We've got a head that can look up. It's a ball peg. He can look down a little bit. You do have some tilt side to side. You've got rotation. Arms out at the shoulders. They, of course, swivel. You've got single-jointed, but slightly better than 90-degree swiveling elbows. And then you've got ball hinges at the wrists. So you've got swivel and then hinge in any direction. The torso and waist is the area that you're probably going to see any kind of limits on just because of how they're put together. And then again, because they've got clothing on. So it does get in the way of the joints. There is a ball peg at the, I guess, towards the middle of the spine. And then there's a ball hinge where the spine meets the pelvis. So it allows them to go forward and backward a little bit, but it's not like the most overwhelming range. It does have some, but it's not a ton. You do have some tilt side to side, and then you're gonna have rotation as well. Legs go all the way out depending on what's in the way. Most of the clothing is gonna be cut in a way that you can get that leg out. Forward is gonna go all the way as well, just depending on the clothing. Backwards, you've got a thigh twist up there also. You got double jointed knees that go, I mean, as way far back, as far as you're ever going to need. And then you've got rocker and you've got a hinge down at the ankles. It's a ball hinge, so that also means there is rotation at the top of the ankle. So these guys do move pretty well. I've never really had any concerns about their articulation. The only thing that's really worthwhile in terms of mentioning is the limitations because of clothing and the 2 balls at the torso. So the one in the middle of the chest and the one at the pelvis. They are going to find some limitations in terms of how, like, the bone structure hits itself. Otherwise, though, pretty easy to pose them, not too much fuss. They move relatively well and very nicely and smoothly, I should mention, right out of the box. Now, in terms of the visuals, the overall look and feel in these guys, I find these to be a different kind of skeleton figure, and I don't mean that in the sense that they're reinventing the wheel or anything like that. They feel like a different kind of skeleton. It's no surprise, I'm obviously a big Mythic Legions fan. You know, I cover that stuff a lot, and skeletons are among, if not my favorite aspect of Legions. They are a night and day different kind of figure from that. If you're used to that kind of skeleton, this is nothing like that. These feel like skeletons that would be inside of a 1/12 scale action figure. So they are slightly on the smaller side. They are slightly on the slimmer side. And in some ways, their clothes do look a little bit big on them. But, I mean, they're still skeleton figures. So, I mean, I take that to be just the design idea behind these, where everything doesn't necessarily fit on them quite well. Like the Spartan in particular, you can kind of see that chest piece looks slightly large on him, because if he was a human, he wouldn't have, you know, that empty space between the bones and the armor. It would be filled out with flesh and with clothing. So this stuff sits on these figures kind of in an interesting way that makes them feel, to me, like they were at one point fully fleshed out action figures, no pun intended. And I kind of like that. It makes them into their own thing. It makes them a little bit different, a little bit unique. That, of course, goes in hand with the fact that these are very unique looking figures. They're very different, and Boss Fight is definitely playing up the variety aspect of skeletons, what you can do. I mean, you can make a skeleton in any color you want, and people are going to buy it up. But then you've got stuff like the Bonesault guy here, which is just a regular skeleton that happens to have a pretty crazy outfit. So he's a luchador, which luchadors are a thing, they exist, but how often do you see a luchador skeleton? So it's kind of that kind of thing, the funny, the goofy aspect of this that I really like. Multicolored skeletons, I'm here for it all day long. I've wanted an orange skeleton from somebody for years, so I finally have one of those. I really like what they're doing with these, especially when it comes to giving us different types of skeletons. So there's nothing here that's the same. They're all the same base body, of course, and that's fine. Skeletons are skeletons. But they're all different. And they all come with unique stuff. They've got, you know, wacky clothing. Like Bonesault has this crazy luchador outfit with, like, you know, these oversized knee pads. He's got a hole in his boot. You can see his bone feet down there. You've got the head sculpt with this metallic mask and everything. And I really, really like this one. Even though he's maybe the more plain skeleton, he's a really outlandish looking figure just by virtue of what he's wearing. And then you've got, you know, these two, which would maybe be more plain skeletons, but now they've dressed him up with multicolored bones. So you've got the green one and you've got the red one, which kind of goes with their armor, but makes them stand out amongst the rest of the figures. And then, of course, we've got our Outlaw here, which is a very different kind of figure compared to the rest. He's not a warrior. He is, you know, he's a gunslinger, so he's different from the other three. And then, of course, he's got a unique color palette. He's got these tattered clothes. You know, this one I really like because right out of the box, you can see kind of what you're working with underneath everything. So you can see that exposed pelvis. You can see that he's mostly just bones. There's not a bunch of clothing sitting over top of this one. He's got the tattered shirt. He's got the kerchief that wraps around his face. And then they've all got, you know, some crazy eyes as well. The luchador has got the sunken in eyes that you can't really see the sockets. You've got the orange on green. You've got the black on red. And then you've got the green on orange, which I think pops really, really well. But these guys look great. I'm really happy the way they turned out. The paint on the armor, specifically on these two, and then specifically more so on the phalanx, is really nicely done. It's kind of dirtied and nasty. It's got a little bit of a patina on it. The pauldrons on this guy move, so you could take those out if for some reason you wanted to, but all of the little buckles and belts and everything on him are painted. They've all got shoes of some kind, and then they all come with bone feet that you can swap out if you want to go down that route, but you've got, you know, different feet, so sandals of different kind. You've got, you know, the luchador boots, you've got cowboy boots over here. So there's all sorts of different parts that you could feasibly mix and match, because this is a possibility with this line in terms of taking some figures apart, taking some of the clothing off and swapping it around if you wanted to do that. But there's something unique about each one of these that makes them stand apart from the rest. So even if you're not crazy and want to get every single figure in the line, you could find one that, you know, maybe you like just the luchador aspect. You've got this really cool skeleton that also has luchador clothing on top of it. So this wacky aspect of skeletons with this particular wave, I'm really into. I really like the first wave, but something about these, the color choices, the types of armor, the weirdness with this guy in particular, and then, I mean, Orange Skeleton, I really like the visuals and I really like the direction that they're taking this set of figures. Now, as far as size comparisons go, let's start with another skeleton. So we've got a Legion skeleton here on the left, and you can see there's a huge, huge size difference between these two. And then we've got one of the Sarzoic Warriors from Boss Fight. Not so much for a size comparison, really just for a comparison between two other Boss Fight lines. I think this is maybe the best one because it's a larger scale line compared to some of the 3 3/4 inch stuff they do. Let's pull this guy out. Here's a Marvel Legend, so here's Forge, and this is the comparison that I really like because they are really close to Hasbro size figures, but as you can see, they are ever so slightly shorter, and as a result, they are slightly slimmer too, and I really feel like when you see something like this, it sort of looks like the idea that they're going for is that these aren't just 6-inch skeletons, they're skeletons that might have come out of your 6-inch figures. This is what I tell myself anyway, but I think it works really well when you line them up against, you know, your average 6-inch figure. And let's do some other lines. So here's Figuarts. There's Superhero Piccolo. Let's do a Super 7 figure. Let's do just a relatively normal Super 7 figure. Here is Tigra, the invisible one. And then let's throw a couple smaller guys in there. So here is Flange Doozer from Boss Fight's Fraggle Rock line. And then here is a Plunderling, because why not? So these guys are pretty comparable to your normal 6-inch scale. Pretty much anything in that arena they're going to fit in. They are going to seem, however, slightly smaller just by virtue of the fact that they are skeletons and not fully fleshed out figures, which I think comes through pretty nicely when you compare them next to stuff specifically from Hasbro. Now, as far as accessories goes, these guys all come with a pretty decent spread, and it's all overwhelmingly stuff that is unique or tied to their specific flavor and their design. They have a few things that are shared across the board, but it's relatively minor stuff. So we'll start left to right, and we'll start with our Outlaw. So he's got a cowboy hat right there. You can use that on the skull. He also comes with an alternate head sculpt that is like a ram skull, which I think is arguably the coolest head sculpt maybe in the entire line, so that's really awesome. We've got a couple guns, because of course that makes sense for him as an outlaw. He's got a rifle, and there is storage for this on the back. It's a little holster thing that you can put into his shirt. He's got a revolver that of course can sit in the holster on his waist there. And then you've got this little like band of rope. It's got a spot to peg into his belt as well if you want this hanging off of him. And then we also get some extra parts for him. So since he has guns, he comes with extra hands. He's got a set of trigger finger hands, so you get 2 of these, 1 for each side. And then one thing I'd mention that every figure comes with, they all come with bare feet, so bone feet. So if you want to pop off the boots or the sandals or whatever they've got, you can put just bare boned feet on there. So they come with a set of those. And then they all come with the Epic Hacks base. So you've got one of these with each figure. Now for our Phalanx, he comes with less stuff, and I think that, some of these come with less, but they come with larger accessories as well, and that's what the Phalanx and the Spartan kind of get into territory with, is less but bigger things. So he's got a helmet as well, so you've got, like this big comb on the top there, like a Praetorian type of helmet, so you've got that to put on. It's not an extra head sculpt, it just sits over top of the skull. He also comes with the feet, and he also comes with a stand, and then he comes with some unique accessories. So you've got like a gladius kind of sword, and you've got this monster, like polearm kind of sword. Not sword, polearm, it's just a polearm. It does have 2 parts, so it pegs together. So if you don't want it to be quite as long, it doesn't have to be. But this thing is absolutely massive. And again, it's tailored to the theme of that figure. It's also got some colors that represent him as well. But his big signature accessory is going to be this absolutely massive shield, which I really like. It's very big, it's kind of heavy, so you do have to kind of have a balancing act with this. I mean, it's over half the size of the figure. It probably weighs as much as the figure does, but tons of paint, tons of gunk and grime. It's got battle damage on it. Then you've got a big handle there on the inside. So that is really cool. I do like this. Easily one of the cooler accessories in this entire wave. For our Spartan, it's kind of more of the same. So you also have a very Spartan style of helmet. So you've got the helmet that fits over top of the skull. You've got that big flourish, the comb up there at the top. He also includes the feet. He also includes the stand. We do have a sheath that can wrap around the figure. So it's got a band, and then you've got your sheath there. And of course that means he comes with a sword. So you do have a sword here, similar to what the Phalanx comes with, just different. He also comes with a long weapon, so you've got kind of a spear, polearm style weapon, so gold and red to match his armor color scheme. And then you probably know where I'm going with this. He also comes with a shield, a very Spartan style shield, again with battle damage, tons of battle damage on this, lots of nicks and gouges and just pieces and bits and bobs taken out of it. And he's got the arm sleeve to put the arm through, and then you've got the clasp there to hold it. Really like this, nice clean painting on this for sure. But I really like all that pitting and just the wear and tear. So you can tell he used this before he met his end. And then bringing up the rear, we've got Bonesalt, our luchador. So he has an entirely separate head sculpt. It's not just another mask or anything. So this is an inverted color mask, so it's more yellow than blue. But this is also him fully screaming. So you've got that going on there. I really like this one. I think this is my preferred of the two, mostly for the expression. They're both pretty decent. He also, again, includes the feet. He also includes the stand. he comes with a microphone, which I think, you know, these accessories are definitely very luchador themed. You got a mic. We've got a Boss Fight Wrestling Championship belt. And that's specifically what it says there, Boss Fight Wrestling on the front. And it's a very pliable plastic, so you can have him kind of throw it over his shoulder. You can actually, you know, wrap it and cinch it around him as well, because it does have the ability to cinch closed. You've got, you know, little holes back there in the pegs. You can do all that. And then you've got his signature weapon, which is a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. The barbed wire is actually a separate piece, though, so you can take that off. It's like a little gummy piece of plastic there, and you can put this on if you so choose. If you want to get extra violent with it, you can put the barbed wire on there for him to throw down with. So you've got a couple different options when it comes to this guy. So like I said, they don't all have the same amount of stuff. I think it's all pretty impactful, and it's all very themed to each figure. So you've got gunslinger stuff. You've got, you know, Spartan, you know, warrior, Roman warrior kind of weaponry. And then you've got, you know, the more goofy kind of stuff, more wrestling themed stuff for our luchador. So a lot of different things across the breadth of this wave. So overall, I'm really happy with this wave. I really enjoyed Wave 1. I'm really happy to see the direction that Wave 2 is taking. Obviously, from the get-go, I really like our Outlaw because, you know, a gunslinger, a cowboy kind of character that's also an orange skeleton. Definitely interested in that. But I really like the two warrior figures in particular. That's kind of what I think of when I think of a skeleton figure a lot, is, you know, some kind of battlefield type of character, and these two specifically play up that idea. I really still like the idea, at least what I have in my head, whether it's factual or not, that these guys are truly meant to be 1/12 figure skeletons, which is why they do fit alongside Hasbro stuff, but also look slightly smaller. And then I really like the luchador just by virtue of the fact that it's a weird, goofy figure. And I've said it a million times in tons of reviews, I love weird, goofy toys. And that's what that is. It's a fun, different kind of figure that's very separate from the rest. It's a skeleton wrestler. I mean, that's just fun on its own. So that's going to do it for this look at the Boss Fight Studio Epic Hacks Skeletons Wave 2. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.